Okay, so thanks for those who came to this talk. I was invited by Jason because I moved here about 2 months ago. I live in San Jose. I am a research fellow at Stanford. So I'm a theoretical biologist, but today I'm not going to talk about biology, but about this art project, which I started, which is called 1000paintingscom.com. Yeah, you can hear from my funny accent that I'm not from around here, but I hope if you don't understand me, just let me know. How I want to structure this talk is I want to briefly introduce what it is, how it started, and then how it spread, and maybe some related projects. Okay, so what is 1000paintings.com in the first place? Well, as the title suggests, it's an art project, and it's about 1,000 paintings, literally. And these paintings are, that's how they look like. These are the real paintings. It's 1,000 paintings with the numbers 1 to 1,000. That's basically it. Now, there's, of course, much more to it, but at the very heart of it, that's it. The paintings are handmade. Just want to stress that fact. It's not just a print, it's handmade. And it comes with this website, which is basically the heart of the project, 1000paintings.com. And as you can see here, so far, sold about 780 paintings. And there's, of course, 220 left if you do the math. And all paintings have been sold on this website, so exclusively. There's no, you can't buy the paintings anywhere else except here. So when you go to a number, that's basically how it looks like. You see the painting, or at least some representation of it. You can, most of the time, you'll see that it's sold. There's some Wikipedia information about it. But if you go to the availability list up here, you get a list like that, a very long list of all the numbers, and you see whether they're sold. As you can see, most are sold, or whether they're still available, and what the current price is, and what the max price is. The reason why I write here current price and max price is because the price of each painting is defined by a formula, okay? That formula looks a little bit like this. So it's a function of the number. So x is just a number that you're interested in. And multiplied by a factor, which is basically depends on the numbers of paintings sold. Okay, so maybe with a little bit more of a table to show this, it will be easier to understand. So let's look at the painting 42 as an example. The base value is $1,000 minus the number. So in the case of 42, it would be $958. And then there's a discount which depends on how many paintings have been sold so far. Okay, so the first 100 paintings had a discount of 90%, so they were pretty cheap. And then the second 100 paintings would go for a discount 80%, and so on. And in the end, you will pay the full price. Oh. So right now, because I've sold 780 paintings, we're here, still a decent discount, but if you would buy number 42 now, that would be the price. And so just some stats. This started about 2.5 years ago, a little less probably. 780 paintings sold so far. I've shipped paintings to 26 countries, which was quite amazing. It's essentially my first art project. More of half of these paintings have been sold in the US. There was a crazy, crazy moment 2 years ago when I sold 322 paintings in 48 hours. 524 was the first number to be sold, don't ask me why. 420 was the first number to be shipped to the US. You probably know more about this than I do. The highest price so far that's been paid on the second market, because people resell these paintings, has been $3,000 for number 6, and the current highest bid is $5,000. So that's just a little bit of the stats. So that's a very short introduction into the project, what it's all about. Okay, and so how did it start, or how did I come up with the idea? What's the concept behind it? Everybody seems to have, his or her own idea, which is good, which is what it is all about. But I want to give you a short introduction how I came up with the project. So this is a picture of Porto in Portugal, where my wife and I were having a vacation, and we were walking down the streets and visiting a couple of art galleries. There were lots of art galleries, and most of them sold paintings, with flowers and landscapes and such, which intrigued me because, these paintings were really expensive, like $5,000 to $10,000 of, a flower, of local artists. And I was wondering, why would people paint flowers these days, and at what price would they sell it, and why would people buy it? And so this is how it all started. And so the entire project is essentially a project about the art market. So in my view, this project is all about meta content. Okay, so let's briefly go back in time and think what people have been painting, or why they have made art. I guess these paintings here. These are from the Lascaux caves in France. This is a horse, probably, and it's probably about 16,000 years old. And of course, that is a representation of a real object, a horse, right? And then if you fast forward, that's essentially what people did, but over time it became more and more abstract. So I guess all of you have seen Dali's and Picasso's and whatnot, where it's still a little bit representational, but it gets more abstract. And then as you go to the modern age, of course, you sooner or later stumble over Jackson Pollock here I think in the MoMA, probably, which is purely abstract, right? So the content went from representation of an object into purely abstract stuff. And now it's kind of hard to think, how much would you pay for that? Or for how much would you sell it if you owned it? And I think this became really, really interesting. I don't know if you heard about this fractal debate. There were even some articles in Nature about that. A couple of years ago, a guy in New York, I think, found a couple of paintings in a storage locker that looked awfully like Pollock paintings. And he had good reasons to think that these are actually Jackson Pollock paintings, because his parents were friends of Jackson Pollock. And so there was a debate, are these really Pollock paintings, or are these just forgeries or just fake paintings? And I think some physicists started exploring if you could possibly by any algorithm tell whether a Pollock painting was a real Pollock or whether it was a fake. And I think it had to do, I'm pretty sure it had to do with fractals, but I don't remember the exact details. You could look it up on the Nature website. But so, the fascinating thing was there were these 10 or 20 or 30 paintings. If they were real Pollocks, right, they would be worth millions. If they were not, they would be worth nothing, basically. The exact same painting. And so, if you think about this, say you have a painting like this could be a Pollock, but it's not. It's made on a website, jacksonpollock.org, which is really funny. You can just go with your mouse and draw that. So I made that in about 5 seconds. So if it was a Pollock, right, it would be worth millions. If it wasn't, it would be worth basically nothing. And that's kind of funny if you think about it. It's the exact same content, but it's a huge difference. And the only difference is information about the painting, information about the artwork, which is essentially the definition of meta, right? It's something about something. So what I wanted to do in the first place, I wanted to remove all content from a painting and it should just be about meta content. Now, if you remove all content from a painting, what you end up with is a white canvas. It's not so funny, plus it has been made, people have done that before. So another thing is that I was thinking about is if you have just a print, what a lot of artists do these days, right? They create their artworks on a computer and then they have a limited edition of prints, which is fine if you have a copy or there's copy too, but if you have millions of copies, it becomes sort of useless and basically worthless. So the limit is another extremely important meta content that influences the price. And so I thought, well, let that be the content, right? Let the limit be the art, basically. So all I wanted to add to this white canvas was the number. Just as Jason put it, like, you have these paintings where it says it's on the back, it's number 17 of 1,000. So instead of the back, I just put it on the front. It's just a number. Now, I also thought, if I have to add content, which is not what I wanted in the first place, well, let me then turn that into meta content too, right? Let me also influence the price. And so that's how this formula came up, basically, 1,000 minus the number. And also because I'm interested in the art market, I wanted to build in the supply and demand mechanism. So if you buy early, it's cheaper. If you buy late, it's more expensive. And that's essentially then how I came up with this project. So, the number is basically the art, but it's also the limit, and it's also the price. So how it spread, I think this is probably, for me personally, the most fascinating part about it. I started it, as I said, 2.5 years ago on February the 9th. There was a small newspaper where I was living back then who had an article, which was nice, and so I sold 20 paintings. I mean, they were very cheap at the beginning, right? And then some people started blogging about it, 36 paintings a couple of days later, and because paintings were cheap, probably, some people would just buy, why not? It's not much of a risk. But then it slowed down dramatically at 61 paintings sold on May the 1st, and then for almost a full month, I sold 1 painting. I thought, okay, I have to do something about it. So, and what I did basically was this website. It's a German wordplay with the ahref tag. And that's how it looked like. I don't know if you have seen any of these, but this is just a graph representation of HTML. It's very simple, right? So, I mean, you guys know all about that, but every web page is HTML, so the root of XML, so it's hierarchically structured, and any hierarchy can be represented as a network. So I would just parse the HTML content, the DOM structure essentially, and put that out as a graph. So this, for example, would be The Economist. Various colors have various meanings. So blue means links, green means diffs, I think. Yeah, that's actually quite funny. So this is rather a modern web page, whereas, for example, Etsy.com, which is a very cool art web page, red is table, so this is all table-based. Maybe let me quickly show that, because it's kind of funny how it unfolds. Is that spelled right? Yeah. Does it work? So it reads the HTML and then starts blowing it up physically, because every particle tries to get away from every other particle. I mean, yeah, it's relatively simple. But I put that on the web and people loved it. I mean, everybody, almost each blog would just, parse his blog, make a screenshot, put it on the blog, and it was really, really a lot of fun. So this is a little slow, but that's essentially how it works. So yeah, if you want to do it, check it out. It's that website. And so what happened then is, of course, I had a link to the paintings project. So as I said, not much happened until May 25th. I put that applet online on May 25th. And then the next day I had 5 sales, which was great. Then the next day I had almost 10 sales. And as it spread, it really started picking up quickly. And on one day I would even sell 21 paintings, which was quite amazing to me. And I thought, this is nice. Now maybe it will spread. And then something happened which I didn't anticipate at all. BoingBoing blogged about it. Mark Fraunfelder said, so it was at the point where I sold 128 paintings. He blogged about it. I don't know why he did it. He will never ever answer my emails. So it will be, a mystery for the rest of the time. So what happened is on May 29th, as I said, I had 106 paintings sold. The next day I was up to 225, and then the next day I was up to 421. So yeah, it was probably the most amazing 48 hours I have ever gone through. Because I would just be, reload, and every time the counter would go up. Yeah, and then end of June I was at 565. Naturally, things slowed down, which is normal also given the price, right? Paintings are more expensive now. I mean, say the 200 paintings here up to 780 were more expensive than all the paintings sold up there. So it's only natural that it slows down, which is built in the algorithm. And also then, of course, people picked it up. Dan Pink from Wired picked it up, which was quite fun. There's a German art investor magazine who thought I was making a joke, but they still wrote about it. This is Brazil's biggest art journal called Bravo. And also people got really excited about it. They started sending me pictures of their numbers, why they chose different numbers. I learned a lot about numbers. I mean, every number had its personal story. It was really quite amazing. This person even printed out the website. Here's something I think used to work at Google even. This is a guy in Switzerland who has other similar artwork. People started talking about it at conferences, which is quite interesting. There's a guy who's really interested in pi. And so he bought the first numbers that were available, for pi, 3.14159 and so on. Yeah, lots of people sent me in their stories. There's really, really interesting stories. I usually blog about these, so you can read some of them on the website. Really interesting stuff. Some people bought multiple. That's a cute one. This kid was born 2004, 2006, 2008. This one was at Google for a while. So now to finish this off, let me also point out a couple of related projects which I find quite interesting because they sort of go into the same aspect. One is 365 special days from a guy, a Brazilian guy, Fernando Luis Lara, who lives in the US, teaches in the US, I think. And it's an interesting idea. He says, the year has 365 days. Everyone has a special day at any of these days. And so he just draws the day. I mean, you would submit your story, he would draw it, send it to you, and then we will collect that here on the web page. And so you get this really interesting collection of drawings over time. And I think they're quite cute. For example, this one was a woman, I think, who said, April 24, we married, we love sailings, but we had some cloudy storms, but we sailed through, and now we have 3 children. And so this is his representation. This is interesting because I think it has this community aspect about it. I mean, part of what fascinates me a lot about these projects is is this community aspect that, for example, I know there's 780 paintings spread throughout the world. I mean, that seems almost impossible without the web, right? And it's really funny to travel around the world, which I did, and to go visit the people and see the paintings in their specific locations. Another one which I find interesting is Place of Places. So this is a relatively famous artist in Switzerland and Europe, and he signs these metal, or he creates these metal signs in different colors, and then the idea is you put it up somewhere, you send him the picture, and then you got this Place of Places. That's one I find pretty funny and true. Other ones, Illusion, Crisis, pretty interesting. There's another aspect which I find extremely interesting, which is the art market. I mean, by now you know, this project was all about a reflection on how do people value things, especially things that intrinsically have no worth, right? I mean, a painting is just canvas and some color. So how do you price that? How does the market work? Anthony White is an Australian artist who just paints, a currency and a value and sells it at face value. He's got 4 series, like $1, euro, pound. He has an Australian dollar. And what's interesting is that, if you're interested in 170 pounds, you can't just go and buy it. You have to wait until 106 is sold. And of course, this guy has to wait until 105. So he starts with 1, 2, 3. And so you have to wait until your number is available, which I find quite intriguing. I think he sold about 1,000 so far. It's really cute. Actually, I went to visit Anthony in Australia, and he's a really interesting guy, and so we thought we should get together a little bit and do some art together. And we wanted to have a project that sounds like a financial institution, because should all be about the market, right? So we said we take our names, which is what financial institutions seem to do for some reason, right? They're called Kleiner and Perkins and whatever. So the idea here would be, this would be the first painting of the series. So again, no content except the contract. And we would just pay back that amount if we get a painting back at that time. Does that make sense? Well, we think it does, because the only definition of value, I think, is simply what someone else is willing to pay, right? I mean, that chair, if that's worth $50, whatever, it's only worth $50 if there's really someone willing to pay $50. Otherwise, it's not. And so, how do you do that when you sell a piece of art? I mean, it's difficult to say this. You might sell this later for that and that amount. It's impossible. The only way around this is basically you have to agree. You, as the artist, have to define, I will pay that amount of money back. And so this painting was really worth $1,063. We sold it on eBay for more, and it never came back. We sold that for less. That was number 2, and let's see if that comes back. I hope it comes back, because I really would like to pay back the money and build up some trust, but also because I really like it, and this was the 3rd. So he's coming over to San Jose next month. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is the website. And finally, let me close with this, which I find really intriguing. That's from Justin, a guy in New York, and he has his website, Once for Sale. And I think that's pretty cool. He paints what he wants, but not only that, the painting will be the price at which, you can buy what he paints. Does that sound complicated? So say he wants an iPhone, he paints an iPhone, he will sell the painting for the exact price as you can buy an iPhone, and he will buy an iPhone. So that's a complete new definition. I mean, I think that's the best definition of a value for a painting you can come up with. So recently he went to Vegas, sold a flight to Vegas, some good luck. they went really fast. Money for blackjack, night in Vegas, money for craps. Strangely, I don't know what he did about that. Money for slots, all you can eat, money, more money. I think he mostly needed money. Some aspirin, it seemed, showgirls, and then fly home. And also something I find equally interesting is needs for sales. So not only does he paint things that he wants, but things that other people need. So here, for example, there's a charity called Habitat for Humanity. You can donate, say, $150. They would buy a door for $150, to build up some houses or whatever for people who don't have the money. So he would paint the door. You would pay $150. He would get $150, would give that to Habitat for Humanity, which then pays the door for $150. It's really interesting. All right, I think that's about it. Let me finish this here. So I want to thank Jason and Google for the invitation. People who made this possible, who don't even know that they did. For example, as I said, this guy, Seth Godin, a market guy who blogged about it, Daniel Pink from Wired, who really pushed the project to my delight and surprise, and my wife, without whom I think it would not have been possible. So yeah, maybe I'll take a couple of questions now, if you have any, if you're interested.
So how do you feel about people bringing meanings to your paintings based on the numbers? Like you said, the different numbers have meanings to people. Doesn't that kind of pose a problem for this ideal art market that you're trying to create?
Yeah, it sort of does, but I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, right? I mean, I can't really say, this should not mean anything to you. I mean, they just do it, but it's really intriguing to see why people bought numbers. I mean, yeah, absolutely mind-blowing. You have the trivial stories where, I mean, not even trivial, but trivial in the sense of technically trivial, that somebody would just say, hey, I buy 712 because I live in 712, and other people had like life-threatening accidents, and that would be the date at which they recovered and stuff like that. Yeah, it was really interesting. No questions? Usually in Europe, people ask me, how much money do you make? Did people not talk about this here? That's good. But technically, it's actually quite interesting because a lot of people were interested in, what would be the maximum amount of money you could make, because if people would start buying the cheap ones and then the more expensive ones, and so it's actually a pretty short range. I'm not exactly sure what the range is, but it's pretty small. But it's a bit fascinating to me culturally, because I've talked about this a lot back in Switzerland and in Europe in general. And there, a lot of people would be extremely offended by, or by an artist actually earning money, or even, take the money into the art. I mean, this was just, two separate things that you should never bring together, although of course it happens all the time, but you should never talk about it. So I've always been open-minded about this. I mean, everybody can go to the website and see how much money I made. I spent all on it. I spent all on taxes, material. Oh, it's extremely expensive to buy 1,000 canvases, and then I was traveling for 10 months last year, which was pretty good. So yeah, I have nothing left, but it's an interesting discussion, I think. And also, I often hear the question like, is this some kind of a, who are you fooling? Is this some kind of a joke? And do you really mean this? Or actually, people even think this is not real. This doesn't exist. Nobody has paintings. It's a bit like the $1 million homepage where people argued that it's actually not real, which, right, it could be not real, but this is real, as you saw with the pictures. Yeah.
If somebody copied you and sort of did the same thing over again,
Yeah.
do you think there would be a difference in value between the two sets if they were virtually identical?
Yeah, I think there would be. So,
Repeat the question.
the question would be if somebody copied it, would that sort of destroy the value, or what would be the difference? Something I didn't show here, but on the back of every painting, there's actually a 19-digit number, which I have created just with an algorithm, which is basically your password, right? And then you can go and check it on the website. So you can, this is like, usually people give, certificates when they sell art and say, this is real. But that's easy to fake, right? So I wanted to have some sort of a password mechanism. So you can't really fake it unless you own a number and you know the password. You could make a copy of that, but I think that would probably still not work. But nobody has really copied it, I think. But a lot of people have made some derivatives, let's call it like that, which were awfully similar. There was a project which basically copied the website one-to-one and would just put initials, like AA, AB, AC. The same pricing system, everything exactly the same. But yeah, I think it's a good sign if you get people who copy you. It means you did something right. But I hope it's not going to happen here. And I also don't want to, people usually ask, will you paint 1,000 to 2,000 now, or another color? No, I will not. This would destroy the value of that project, right? Which is essentially the point.
Do you think you'll sell the rest of the 200 or no?
Yeah, I hope. I have time. When I started this, I thought, 100 paintings in a year would be like amazing. And so I think 10 years should be fine. I didn't expect that to happen. And also I think there's this is probably the hardest moment now, because the paintings are expensive. They're not really expensive, but they're more, pricier than they were. And so once whenever it will pick up again, at one point you will come to the point where you see it's really going to sell out, and then I think it has another effect again. I think that's what you observed a little bit with the $1 million homepage. Like in the beginning, people were, yeah, this is fun, and then it sort of stopped. And then when it became clear that this is really running through to the end, everybody jumped on it. But I don't really care. I'm extremely glad how it went, and I'm pretty sure it will. The other 220 numbers will go too. I just don't have a timeline for that.
So what's next? What's your next project?
Yeah, I do have another project, but it's pretty preliminary, and it doesn't really have much to do with that. So it's more about, what really fascinates me is what you talked about, the meaning that people were giving to this project. And I love the entire community aspect and all that, but when I step back for a moment and think about it, I think I made the project not flexible enough. I defined the prices from the beginning. I defined everything. What I really want in the next project is that the project itself changes as people buy stuff. So the content will essentially depend on when, where, and why people buy, and not only the content of the painting that you buy, but all future offspring, sort of like an evolutionary dynamics into the project. But it's a little bit tricky from the computational side, I mean, this was easy. Write a little script, but this is going to be a little bit more complicated. But that's the aspect that I want to have in the next project, and I want to get it really well done. So, I mean, I think that was important. I think to a lot of people when I asked them, when you saw the project and you liked it, I mean, what made you really buy it? And a lot of people said, this looked like really well made and, good quality and good design. It was not just something that you would do overnight, hack it and then put online. So I think that's something that is important. So I'll take my time. Did you have a question?
I get it. So do you paint by yourself all this time?
Sorry?
You are painting by yourself?
Yes. But I use stencils and all kinds of technologies, so it looks pretty. It looks good in the end. I mean, people. That's another feedback. I think that's even the most frequent feedback that I get is, it looked better than what I expected. Because somehow people expect me taking a brush and going 1, 2, 7, whatever, But it takes a long time to make these paintings. I mean, my wife helped me a lot, and we had to take like 4 or 5 months off when we had this, BoingBoing phase, just to do all the paintings. So yeah, they're all handmade.
Do you paint it once it's sold, or do you have it all painted?
They're almost all painted and in a starch locker in Zurich, which I hope I will open before I die, and because then it's not a question whether they are fake. About 50 I have to paint yet, but the rest is painted and ready to go. All right. Thanks for coming.